Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You came to us with a massive question, one that every civilization has really grappled with.
hmm
What defines absolute value for a human life?
Mm.
And is there some kind of ultimate, unchanging standard we can measure ourselves against?
And that is exactly the topic of the source material we're digging into today. It's a powerful 1981 discourse called Our Standard: Conscience, God, and the Power of Love.
Yeah.
And its opening move is, well, it's pretty startling. It argues that if mankind can't locate and really stick to an absolute unchanging standard, we face this kind of philosophical deadlock that threatens our ultimate survival.
That's a heavy weight to put on the argument, right from the start.
It is.
So our mission today is to step into that philosophical arena the source creates and try to understand the solution it proposes.
Where this standard is housed, how it connects to our inner life, and what it practically demands of us.
Exactly. It's a deep dive that really challenges our foundational assumptions about success, morality, and even where consciousness comes from.
So the source starts by kind of setting the stage for this search. If we're looking for the central factor that should define the human standard, what should it be?
Right. What's the yardstick?
We usually focus on things we can count, money, knowledge, power. But the source immediately asks us to consider a fourth option: people.
Okay, so let's unpack this. First, let's look at what makes material things valuable. We chase things like gold and diamonds. What qualities, according to this text, make them so valuable?
Well, the source defines material value with three core qualities. For something to be a true treasure, it has to be eternal, so it lasts.
Okay.
It has to be unique, meaning it's irreplaceable. And it must be unchanging. Its worth doesn't just fluctuate with whims or market trends.
We admire those qualities.
We do, inherently.
And this leads us right to this great contradiction. We have material treasure, but we almost never say treasure people.
No, and the source really hits this home by pointing out the value of human labor back when this was written, sometimes as low as $3.50 an hour.
It creates such a stark comparison.
Yeah.
Why do we risk our lives for territory or riches, but treat a person's time so cheaply?
And the source frames this with a really provocative thought experiment. It asks, would you exchange the person you love most, your spouse, your child, for a massive, flawless diamond?
Say, one the size of that person.
Yeah, exactly. And the instinctive answer for pretty much everyone is just no.
Never, of course not.
You'd never make that trade, which logically proves that men and women are fundamentally more valuable than any gem or gold or piece of land.
Okay, so if we are more valuable than diamonds, what is the basis of that value? We can't just place the standard on our physical selves because they're constantly changing.
They're so mutable, our appearance changes, our bodies are temporary, our moods shift day to day.
And the source really hammers this home, that instability it's undesirable. We want permanence. We want stability in our relationships and our institutions.
So if the standard can't be based on things that change, we have to look inward, beyond the physical shell.
Which throws us right into that classic debate, the mind versus the body.
And which one changes more quickly? I mean, the body's desires are so fluid. Yesterday you wanted a huge meal, today you want something else, tomorrow a new pleasure.
The cravings are always shifting.
Always. But the source argues that the conscience, the mind's moral center, it pursues these intangible, constant ideals.
Like justice, truth, honesty.
Yes. And this enduring pursuit is what really differentiates us from, the animal world.
That's a natural transition into our second section, because if the conscience is the key, the source has to defend its existence against, materialistic views.
It does. It directly challenges common evolutionary theory, which might claim that the mind's desires, our longing for justice or truth, are just illusory byproducts of our material existence.
Or just chemical reactions helping us survive.
Right. And the source says if we accept that we're just animals operating on instinct, then there can be no permanent standard. Morality becomes relative.
And the deadlock continues.
The deadlock prevails. To escape it, to distinguish ourselves, we have to find an absolute standard that's independent of our changing circumstances.
We need that anchor. And the source insists the conscience is that anchor because it possesses those three qualities we admire in a diamond.
Eternal, unique, and unchanging.
Let's test that claim, though. If you ask someone today what is fundamentally good versus fundamentally evil, and I mean bedrock morality, not just cultural rules, the source claims the answer would be basically the same as it was 1,000 or even 10,000 years ago.
That core sense of right and wrong is timeless. That permanence, unlike our changing bodies, is what makes the conscience eternal, unique, and unchanging. It matches the criteria.
But wait, morality does shift with culture, right? Our laws are different now than in the Middle Ages. How does the source deal with that?
That's a great point. It's really arguing for a kind of an a priori moral structure,
Yeah.
one that exists before human laws.
So it's not about specific rules, but the underlying drive?
Exactly. The laws might change, but the deep-seated drive for justice, or the feeling that betrayal is fundamentally wrong, that remains constant. It's arguing the conscience reflects a universal structure, not something we invented.
And this idea of a universal structure is where the source really goes head to head with the materialist.
It does, especially those who claim that material existence dictates consciousness, that the mind is just a byproduct.
This is where that famous I design argument comes in.
Yes, and it's a powerful logical challenge. The materialist says existence comes first, consciousness is just a result.
Right.
But the source says, just. Look at the eye. It's a material thing, sure, but it is so meticulously designed. It has tear ducts, it focuses light, it's resistant to dust.
So what's the logical leap here?
The leap is this. Whoever or whatever designed the eye must have known about dust and gravity and sunlight before the eye even existed. That knowledge, that design, that consciousness had to precede the material existence of the eye. Otherwise, the eye would have appeared randomly and then had to retroactively create the sun and dust it was already perfectly built for.
Which is logically absurd.
It's absurd. Therefore, the source concludes, consciousness design, knowledge, it has to come first.
Which means our individual conscience is tied directly into this preceding universal consciousness.
Exactly. So we appreciate those three qualities of value in a diamond only because we have those corresponding qualities inside ourselves.
It's a reciprocal relationship.
Precisely. We recognize a first cause that initiated these values. We cherish them in gems because our own intrinsic value housed in our conscience already possesses them. If you didn't recognize that unchanging quality in yourself, why would you even look for it in gold?
Okay, that establishes the conscience as the base of absolute value. Let's move to the sheer scale of this thing, because this is where it gets almost incomprehensible.
Yeah, section 3 is about the scope. The source describes the conscience as boundless, terrifyingly ambitious. It's never satisfied.
What do you mean, never satisfied?
It's described in terms of limitless action. The conscience doesn't settle. If you help 10 people today, it doesn't tell you to rest tomorrow. It pushes you to do more, to help 11 people next time.
It just keeps pushing beyond any finite accomplishment.
And the analogy for this is, it's breathtaking. Even if your conscience contained the whole Earth, it would want the entire galaxy. If it had the whole universe, it would still demand more.
It would want to possess the very heart of God in his love.
That scale forces the next crucial question. Who made a conscience that huge?
God did.
According to the source, yes. And if God created a vessel, the human conscience, to be that vast, he's responsible for filling it. But what could possibly fill it?
It can't be material wealth. An almighty God controls diamonds and gold at will. They're no treasure to him.
And this is the grand reveal, the ultimate standard, true love.
No.
And this is the one thing the source says, that even God cannot control at will.
Now that is a profound claim. Why can't God control true love unilaterally?
Because love, by its very nature, is only activated in a reciprocal relationship. It needs an object.
Give and take.
It's a dynamic cycle of give and take. If you have infinite potential love but nowhere to direct it, you can't experience the joy or the shock of that love.
This brings us to a really deep concept in the text, God's loneliness.
Despite being infinite, if God is all by himself, he's incomplete. He needs an ideal object, mankind, to activate and fully enjoy the very essence of his own being.
And since God is described as enormous, he created man with a conscience that's proportionally as vast as his own.
The source uses this incredible metaphor. God is the enormous plus, and man in his need is the enormous minus.
And when they join together in true love, what happens then?
A giant spark flashes. And this isn't just a metaphor for a nice feeling. The source claims this spark generates a universal shock that jolts the entire universe. All creation, from the smallest amoebae to the most distant galaxies, will be totally intoxicated and melted by the power of that love. Nothing less can satisfy the infinite scope of the conscience.
That is humbling to think about. That our own moral drive is designed to be filled by something so cosmic.
It is.
And that moves us into section 4. Putting this standard into action, Before understanding its value, the conscience might have just seemed like an obstacle, resisting our desires for comfort or pleasure.
That's right. The modern pragmatic approach often sees the conscience as an inconvenience, a brake pedal on our desires.
But now, armed with this knowledge, the conscience is restored to its essential purpose. It's the command post for the body.
Exactly. The mind, rooted in this absolute principle, decides how to interact with the five senses, rather than the body's changing desires leading the way.
And this standard conscience, based on true love, it establishes a clear, unchanging hierarchy of moral action. Where does that start?
It starts at the most basic unit, the family, through the principle of filial piety.
So, loyalty to the family structure.
Absolute loyalty. The purpose is to pursue the welfare of your parents and siblings because your conscience dictates it's the right thing to do, even if it's not immediately reciprocated.
It establishes that fundamental commitment.
It does. It's the formation stage.
And once you master that, the principle expands.
Yes. The next step is patriotism. That's the growth stage. Here, you serve your country's welfare because the conscience demands pursuing a higher value than just yourself.
And the perfection stage.
That's sainthood. The saint acts for the sake of all mankind, recognizing the ultimate subject of all existence, God. The standard moves from the personal to family to nation to the world.
So the ultimate standard is that synergy. Conscience based on true love. Or true love based on conscience.
And when you live by that, the source claims your five senses don't feel limited. Instead, they cooperate in the state of harmony and intoxication. It's happiness, not just duty.
The final goal, then, is to become a standard man or woman of the universe.
Yes, by uniting mind and body under the command of this love-centered conscience. The family is formation, the nation is growth, the world is perfection. To be accepted by the heavenly world, you have to embody that universal, saintly standard.
And this standard, this true love, it manifests socially in a really powerful concept the source calls the love race.
This point is critical. This love transcends any racial or cultural prejudice.
And it uses a pretty striking analogy to explain it.
It does. It says that if white people truly disliked black people, they should stop wearing black clothing. Because the brilliance, the value, the sheer visibility of white is completely dependent on a dark background for contrast, for appreciation.
So the desire under this standard isn't just tolerance.
No, it's unity. The text says the desire is to marry interracially, to create greater beauty, and to live with this ultimate standard forever. It's about mutual enhancement and appreciating difference as a way to maximize beauty.
So, to summarize this incredibly dense deep dive, the solution to mankind's philosophical deadlock is finding that true, permanent standard.
Which the source defines as true love, centered on an unchanging conscience.
And when you embody this, you are no longer a changeable commodity, but a unique, everlasting entity, totally fulfilled on your eternal journey.
And as you reflect on this definition of absolute value, consider this one final thought from the source material.
Okay.
It suggests that even material things have an inclination toward moral ownership. A diamond, if it could speak, would prefer to be possessed by someone with a moral ethic.
And it would want to resist a thief.
It would want to resist the thief who reaches out to snatch it.
That is certainly something to mull over. If even inanimate treasures have an inclination toward moral ownership, what does that imply about the consciousness in the universe and about the power of your own moral standards?
It raises the question of responsibility, doesn't it? If everything in the universe is waiting for the moral human to take ownership, then our conscience isn't just an internal guide, it's an interventionist force in the cosmos.
We encourage you to explore what it means to totally empty yourself of those lesser changing desires, and then be filled with this universal, reciprocal love. The ultimate promise of the source material is that when that heavenly love finally hooks you,
You won't just say, ouch.
you will say, ouch, love. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.